rising sun pushes aside the darkness across the Rocky Mountains in the western U.S. A small segment of these landscapes, as they may have been in the time before history. In a remote corner of the Rocky Mountains, there is a creature that makes his home here. He meets the challenges of living with a wild spirit, a spirit brimming with life. The river otter has few enemies. The coyote is one. The wild otter is a land animal, but the lakes and rivers of Yellowstone are his home, and water is essential to his existence. June in Yellowstone has meant lush green growth and rivers running cold and clear, fed by the runoff from winter snows. A mother otter brings her pups on their first adventure. They head upstream, following the cutthroat trout up into shallow streams, ideal hunting grounds. And not only for otters. Grizzlies are skilled fishermen, and the trout are a godsend for hungry bears. But even they are sometimes left yearning for a taste of the one that got away. The trout are on their way to the headwaters where they were born, with the otters following. Following their forebears and their noses, they seek the unique chemical signature of the stream where they were hatched, which isn't always easy. Once there, the female will dig out a redd, a shallow nest where she will lay her eggs. In the swift current, there are always some that are swept away, but there is often someone making sure they don't go to waste. All that hard work, and the dipper gets to feast on caviar. The mother otter is following her own mental map, retracing the steps of her mother before her. She carefully shepherds her pups, encouraging them and showing them the way. Otters are strong swimmers, and always seem to attack life with great spirit. Even the pups are not daunted by the swift current. Their destination, a shallow pond, an ideal spot with plenty of logs where the family can rest and feed, safe from larger predators that stalk the shores. The trout congregate here to rest before their final push up to the headwaters of their spawning stream. It's the perfect spot for learning how to fish, and that's exactly what the curious youngsters are here to do. Otters are much more successful when they hunt in the shallows. A trout this size is quite a prize, at the upper limits of what the otter can handle, and it puts up quite a fight. The mother is careful not to pass it off to her pup until they reach the shore. It's quite a handful, and could have escaped in the water. Well fed, the family sets out to explore their new sanctum. A log covered with grass shows it has been here for decades, a safe playground for otter pups. Even Mom can't resist joining in the tussle. They seem as fluid as the water, where they are most at home. More than any other animal, otters seem to embody pure joy. The pups explore more now, but quickly rejoin their mother. During the day, otters seek out couches on the shore where they can rest. Even though they are so full of life, they actually spend much of their day sleeping. A butterfly is a stand-in for prey, an added attraction for the pups. And his curiosity is an indicator of intelligence. Play fighting is the favorite game, but the low purring grunts, called chuckling, shows it's all in fun. A sharp chirp means the play has gotten a little too rough. Mom puts an end to the fray. They're still suckling, and eventually she gets them to settle in for a meal. They won't be weaned until they're 5 months old. With full bellies, their fur drying in the warm sun, they cuddle together for an afternoon nap. At the edge of the pond, they feel safe. But in Yellowstone, other predators are never far away. A coyote, searching for a meal, has come to the pond. Coyotes will hunt almost any kind of prey, including otters. But lucky for the otters, this one seems to have something else on his mind. A fishing coyote? Strange, but true. Identified by his radio collar, this animal seems to have made fishing a specialty. Still, he has none of the otter's expertise. The otters, awake to the danger, instantly alert. On land, they could fall prey to the coyote. But with a huge trout for lunch, the coyote is unaware he is being watched, and the otters slip away into the water. A coyote with less of a taste for fish could be a real threat on land, but in the water, otters are untouchable. Alive with the music of lapping waves, a hollow log becomes a playground. Otters are beautifully adapted to life in the water. Their sensitive whiskers help them explore things close up. They are so sensitive, they will one day pick up the faint electric fields of living prey buried in the mud. Playing hide and seek is fun, but it also hones their survival skills. They're learning to use their sharp canine teeth. A squirming playmate's foot today, but one day they'll grab a slippery fish. It's all a game, and they're careful not to use their shell-crushing molars on tender toes. They are completely at home underwater, sealing their ears and nostrils tight, peering through eyes perfected to see through water, but which leave them nearsighted above. With webbed feet, powerful tails, and streamlined bodies, they are great fishers. But they do have plenty of competition. An osprey strips away a dead branch and carries it to his mate. They are also master fishermen. They are building a nest above the pond and have plenty of work ahead to turn this loose pile of branches into a sturdy nest. The pups are all over Mom, and certainly more hindrance than help, as she tries to interest them in a fishing trip. But fishing in the shallows of a pond filled with trout is so easy, the pups don't get in the way. Once caught, though, the pups are intensely curious. She lets one of the pups take the fish, a chance to see if it can handle such big prey. And the pup doesn't hesitate. Suddenly, a strange female appears, along with her 3 pups. Otters are not territorial, and home ranges can overlap. But there's no knowing how these 2 families will interact. The pups make a beeline for the log playground, knowing a good thing when they see it. But it's the abundant trout gathered here in shallow water that have attracted their mother. Strangely confident, the new pups run ahead, mobbing the mother of the twins for a handout. This seems to be a reunion of some kind, and she gives up her meal to the new pups. Everyone seems to be acquainted. Could the females be sisters? Mother and daughter? It's clear they know each other and are happy to be reunited. The pups are communally fed by both females, adding weight to the idea that they are somehow related. Even unrelated otters are known to cooperate when they are hunting, driving fish into the shallows. But here, where the fishing is so good, the bonds seem less transactional and more like family. But, like in all families, there can be fights. A minor spat. But here, one of the twins seems to side with new arrivals, leaving our original mother 1 pup short. In one great pile, the new family welcomes the extra pup as they rub themselves on the grass to dry their fur. They won't stay for long. A summer squall sweeps over Yellowstone. The mother with only 1 pup has headed off to another fishing spot, seemingly oblivious to her missing offspring. Looking to make sure the coast is clear, she follows an otter trail that crosses a hiking trail, up over the hill to another stream, with her pups in tow. The pup she left behind realizes its mother and littermate are gone. With loud chirps, it calls for its mother. Hearing its distress calls, its adoptive family hurries back. But here is its own mother. Having realized her mistake, she rushes in to reclaim her missing pup. At last, it's one big happy family again. The pups investigate everything. Stripping away bark can reveal snack-sized prey, like this beetle. The pups also love to play with bits and pieces, as they are learning to use their paws and whiskers. Intelligent and imaginative, even a blade of grass can entertain them. One pup seems content to play with his toy stick. While another discovers that its mouth is not designed to scoop up trout eggs. Otters do not scavenge, but will eat pretty much whatever live prey comes their way, even a slippery salamander. But for the pups, play can be just as rewarding as eating. It's even better when play leads to eating. Chasing its stick, this one discovers a dragonfly nymph on the bottom. But otters are designed to fish, and it's up to Mom to show them how. The mother has caught a huge trout. She grabs it by the head, the best place for a secure grip. It is still very much alive as she leads the pups out of the current, where the lesson will continue. Obedient to instinct, the pups follow faithfully. She releases the wounded fish to them. One of them grabs it by the head and makes a run for the log. But once there, he doesn't seem to know what to do with it. He tries to begin eating it from the tail. Wrong. That's how you lose a fish. Mom comes to the rescue, and the lesson begins again. Another skill the mother teaches the pups is how to cooperate in driving fish into the shallows, where they are easier to catch. Here they can lope or swim, whatever works. With the pup's help, or perhaps despite that, it is Mom who seals the deal. But practice will make perfect, eventually. But this summer idyll is ending. The spawning run is over, and the trout are disappearing from this tranquil pond. But cutthroat trout do not die after spawning, like their salmon relatives do. Instead, the current is sweeping them down the waterfall they worked so hard to scale. They head back the way they came, to even larger streams, followed by the always hungry otters. Finally, they make it to the Yellowstone River itself. Here, they meet the full cast of characters that make Yellowstone unique. All the creatures that have dwelt here since before humans arrived. The otter families need to keep alert around such large neighbors. Playing king of the bank, a splendid bull elk makes sure a younger one knows its place. They are oblivious to the otters, who need only keep out of the way. But a great blue heron is a real competitor for fish. One bison calf seems innocent enough, but a whole herd of these massive Ice Age giants can crowd out other river travelers. Ducklings must scramble to stay out of the way. A vista like this can take you back in time tens of thousands of years, but it's just a passing show to the otters. The otters are on the move, pulling out at day dens all along the way for a few hours' rest. The pups are nervous as they head into unfamiliar territory. The families keep in close physical contact to reassure each other. They will travel 2 to 3 miles, or even more, in a day, heading upstream to the river's source, Yellowstone Lake. The Yellowstone River will be their preferred habitat for much of the summer, however. The otters are safe as long as they are in the middle of the stream. But the mother is looking for a specific spot where she wants to pull out onto the shore, regardless of the danger. She is heading for a traditional latrine site, one that has been used by generations of otters. Often situated high on promontories, the otters climb up to defecate and scent mark here, leaving signs to let other otters know that they've been here. Otters are not territorial and have overlapping ranges, but they like to keep track of each other just the same, even when they are just passing through. As they approach the big lake in their journey upstream, the river slows down. They are lucky to happen upon a beaver lodge. A beaver exits his bank lodge, swimming in the sky. Beaver lodges are often used by otters as day dens, sometimes with the beaver still there. Beavers can also provide better fish habitat on smaller streams, where the dams provide deep pools for fish. But it's also an ideal fishing ground for a bald eagle. Where there are beavers, otters thrive. The otters don't compete with the beaver, who lives on bark. Otters don't build dens of their own, and are happy to move in temporarily with the builders of this beaver lodge. But the beavers don't seem to mind. Neither does the eagle. Bald eagles are happy to rob an otter of its hard-won dinner. Not all of the temporary dens the otters use are as comfortable as the beaver lodge. Sometimes a little home improvement is called for. This mother is haying, gathering grass and leaves so she can make the rocky and damp den she has commandeered a little cozier for her pups. They will be safe here tonight, while larger predators stalk the dark. And while they sleep, the Yellowstone night remains an active world. The warmth of the morning sun is an invitation to play. Their mother is infinitely tolerant of their high spirits, which is good, since young otters seem to have an insatiable appetite for hijinks. But wrestling can serve a practical purpose too. Rolling on the grass dries their fur. Otter fur is incredibly warm because it is incredibly dense. Yellowstone is one of the rare places that still has its full repertoire of predators, and sooner or later, they all come down to the river to drink. Wolves have been exterminated, but were reintroduced more than 20 years ago. The otters are careful to give them a wide berth. A collared alpha female has brought her puppies here to drink. They are now out of the den to begin their training. Like the otter pups, they too love to play. But as pack animals, their games have a serious purpose: to help sort out their hierarchy within the group. Since only the most dominant animals ever get to breed, their entire future may depend on the games of puppyhood. Yellowstone Lake is actually the drowned caldera of a supervolcano. Coyotes haunt its beaches of volcanic sand, as the otters are about to find out. Since the otters must feed on the open beaches, coyotes are happy to steal from them. And they're not the only ones. Even a white pelican is keeping close watch, hoping for a free meal at the otter's expense. But pelicans are not the most talented of thieves. The otter escapes into the water, leaving the disgruntled pelican to complain. But some thieves have wicked skills. A passing shadow startles the family, who can only watch as their dinner disappears in the eagle's talons. The cutthroat trout that the otters follow to the lake are actually just beginning to make a comeback here. Much larger lake trout, which don't migrate upstream to spawn and are too big for the otters to catch, were illegally introduced here, and they decimated the cutthroats. But today, after years of aggressive netting of lake trout, the cutthroats are rebounding, much to the otters' benefit. And for the grizzlies as well, who can only catch the trout when they head up their spawning streams, unless they happen to come upon a family of otters who have had good luck fishing. Cutthroats are much too fast for the pups to catch in the open water, so the family heads to one of the many shallow lagoons that fringe the lakeshore. Like a magic mirror, the tranquil lagoon reflects the beauty and grace of the otter's world. They've come here so the pups can learn to fish for suckers, small, slow bottom-dwelling fish that are much easier for the pups to catch. But they're still not past stealing a fish from their mother. They make good use of their whiskers, feeling for their prey right beneath their noses. The whole family joins in the feast. Ravens always hang around, hoping to pick up the scraps. But this pup thinks that he might be on the menu. He stands his ground only when Mom backs him up. In the interior of the park, new growth attracts bison. A pile of rocks on the shoreline is home to another family, the den of the local coyotes. Their pups are just beginning to explore their lakefront home. To the otters, this is just a convenient place to pull out to eat. One look at them, and the young coyotes retreat. As adults, they would challenge the otters, but for now, they leave them in peace. Late summer squalls bring much-needed rain, while the wind whips up a stiff chop. Waves are a new experience for the coyote pups, and not a pleasant one. Waves like these are new for the otter pups, too. But effortlessly buoyant and with amazing flexibility, they soon learn to navigate them like pros. They never seem to tire of the rocking motion. Summer squalls don't only bring rain, they bring fire. Fire has always been a part of life in Yellowstone, but climate change has literally turned up the heat. In wet summers, forest fires are limited in scope, but with the drier and warmer summers ushered in by climate change, they can destroy entire mountainsides. The ground, burnt bare, erodes quickly in the rain, muddying the streams where the otters fish. But the bloom of purple fireweed is testament to how fires ultimately help rejuvenate the land. At the end of a dry summer, water barely trickles over the rocky stream beds. Fish can be caught in occasional pools, of which the otters take full advantage. Sometimes the pups still seem to prefer to play with their food, rather than to eat it. Autumn brings newcomers to Yellowstone. Trumpeter swans from Canada. With an 8-foot wingspan, it's the largest waterfowl in North America. The small resident population is struggling, and they don't welcome the migrants, who bravely protect their darker cygnets. Display quickly escalates into a vicious fight. They mean business. Swans have been known to force their opponents underwater and drown them. This round goes to the home team. Snowstorms soon replace summer squalls. Winter comes early, 1.5 miles above sea level. Kept warm by their incredibly dense coats, the otters can always retreat to the safety of the water, as long as it isn't completely frozen over. The otter families are always on the move. They fish one spot today, another tomorrow. They follow a loose circuit, returning only after a few weeks. So they will never overfish any one location. Always searching for good fishing, the two otter families can go for weeks without seeing each other. But when they haul out at a traditional latrine site, the chances are that they will meet again. It's a joyful reunion. The family joins in group scent marking, dancing to leave scent from special patches on their hind feet, and defecating. It is clear to all and sundry that this family of otters is here, healthy and together again. Then off they go on another fishing trip, for now all together. A cornucopia of scent, from meal scraps to scent marks, proves irresistible to the resident wolf pack. One by one, they roll in the scent, claiming bragging rights to such a heady brew. Proof that theirs is a productive hunting territory. High above the river, a bald eagle eyes the pups. He keeps a close eye as they add sledding to their games. But it's not all fun and games. Coyotes patrol the riverside in winter, always looking to steal a fish or scavenge some scraps. But with the families reunited, the otters have numbers on their side. They decide to mob the coyote, by land and by sea, to drive him away. It's clear the coyote is not really frightened, but it decides to wait for better odds. Eagles are omnipresent along the rivers. Pairs have strong bonds, which they forge in a magnificent ritual. Flying high, they grasp talons and spin in free fall. They show ultimate trust in each other as they tumble down, breaking it off only just before they would crash into the earth. Winter brings with it the big freeze. As ice seals the water beneath, it presents a challenge to all the creatures of Yellowstone. But there's always some open water, and that's where you'll find otters. Otters don't have long claws to grip the ice, but the pups soon discover they have a special talent, sliding. With their fishing grounds disappearing under the ice, otters must find open water. But they're not the only ones. Otters have been known to hunt waterfowl, but swans? Even with both families working together, swans are definitely out of their league. Marking latrines is just as important to the otters in winter as at any other time. In the snow, that means a slippery climb up to mark, and then tobogganing down. It may be the most efficient way to move in the snow, but it sure does look like they're having fun. As winter sets in, even the lake begins to freeze. Yellowstone is transformed into a windswept landscape of white. Deer and elk moved to the lower valleys long ago. The bison used their massive heads to plow through the snow to the grass beneath. The otters must keep fishing to survive, so they must keep moving in search of open water, wherever that journey takes them. Scaling a waterfall in an icy torrent is just part of a day's work. In the evening, they check in at otter motels, dens scattered across their range where they can hole up overnight, huddling together to stay warm. Morning finds them slithering over snow and ice, on their way to another cold dunk in a constant search for fish. Often as not, they come up empty. Fast-flowing water keeps the ice at bay, but it's not a great place to find a meal. Native Americans say the otter is always hungry. In winter, that may be true. At last, the mother comes up with a fish. Her pup tries to steal it, as it has so many times before. But this time, she's not giving it up. It's time the pup learned to fish for itself. But it doesn't give in easily. A coyote spies the otters. Do they have something he could steal? A water shrew comes in handy when fish are scarce, but it's not enough to entice the coyote. Even the hardships of winter can't crush the playful spirit of the twin pups. An otter just fishes with another otter, pulling him by the tail. The mother seems to have given up on teaching independence for today. She relinquishes yet another catch to the pup. The coyote is intrigued when an otter pulls a big trout onto the ice. It would make a good meal for the bald eagle. Escape into the water, always the otter's best defense. Being caught on land is a different story. A coyote family drives another coyote away. They guard their hunting territory jealously, especially in winter's grip. Into this danger zone, a mother and one of her pups appears. Caught by a storm, they spent the night in a snow-covered den along the banks of the frozen river. With no open water in sight, they set off across the ice, dark figures in a white world. Easily spotted by the displaced coyotes, the race is on. Short legs bounding for all they're worth. The coyotes can easily outrun them. The pup slips away. The mother defends herself valiantly. Luckily for the otter, only one of the attackers seems willing to take on those sharp teeth. But one may be enough. At the last moment, she's safe in her den, leaving the coyotes bewildered and still hungry. Near a stretch of free-flowing river, the rest of the otters emerge from another den where they've spent the night. While the pups seem ready to start fishing right away, the female seems to wonder where the missing otters might be. Haunted by their absence, she calls off the hunt. The female decides to go looking for them. Just then, the missing mother and pup show up. Short-sighted, the family peers at them. Could it be? Yes. After the briefest of reunions, it's time to get back to the serious business at hand. Fishing, the favorite pursuit of every otter. Well, that, and indulging in the special joy they take in just being alive. The otter's irrepressible spirit is evident and enviable for all who are lucky enough to see it. It may be a secret of their success, but it also feeds the soul to see them like this. Free to pursue their own kind of happiness. Free to be otters. River masters of Yellowstone. High on a mountain in Yellowstone National Park, a lone grizzly wanders in search of edible roots. This is no ordinary grizzly. This is bear 211, or better known to park visitors as Scarface. He walks with a noticeable limp, as well he might, as he is over 20 years old. In that time, he has wandered throughout the park and beyond. His face and ears show that he has fought in many battles with other bears over food, females, and territory. The Lamar Valley of Yellowstone's northern range can be home to Scarface, but he has roamed throughout Yellowstone's 2 million acres, making his life here in one of the few places where grizzlies can still exist in these 48 states. In Yellowstone, for the next several years, he pursues any opportunity he encounters, exploring any situation for the possibility of food. Large herds of bison roam the valley. They are a challenge for a grizzly to hunt. But a bison that has died a natural death is a food opportunity. And so he prowls this valley where he may find just such an opportunity. His endless wanderings take him near the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone, in the den of the Hayden Valley wolf pack, 25 miles to the south. The family pack is resting and relaxed now. The white alpha female of the Hayden pack has just fed her pups. But Scarface's arrival is a threat to the pack's pups. This triggers concern in the wolves. The white alpha female rises to defend her pups. A short battle ensues behind the trees. And Scarface is convinced to move on. In his earlier life, Scarface would have fished for cutthroat trout. But now he must be content with scavenging a large suckerfish, which are still plentiful in the river, and not particular about the condition. Upstream from the den in Hayden Valley, a female and her cubs have found a dead bison floating in the Yellowstone River. When Scarface comes in, the sow and her 2 yearlings do not argue with the old-timer. He is a definite threat to the 2 cubs. Male grizzlies have been known to kill cubs, even though the female would defend them. In this case, she chooses to let the large male take control of the carcass. Safety will take precedence over food for the moment. In the highest, coldest zones, white bark pines flourish where other trees cannot subsist. In late autumn, the white bark pine has produced a crop of cones containing seeds of rich caloric content. This food source attracts many Yellowstone residents. Scarface will be found high on the slopes of Mount Washburn, feeding on the nuts of this tree. This will keep him on higher slopes, where he will have less conflict with humans. The gentle snows accumulate all winter, sometimes forming a solid foundation. Large male grizzlies may be out of their dens in February, although usually in March. Warmer winters are making this more common in Yellowstone, but females with cubs will emerge later, about April or May. He is on the eternal search for food. Another bear has discovered a winter-killed carcass at the edge of the river. This grizzly has scented it too. The smaller bear will not contest the larger. The dominant bear will always have the reward. It's snowing, but this is not winter. Instead, just a usual June snowstorm in Yellowstone. This female grizzly has been observed on Mount Washburn for 5 years. A bird exiting her nest in the aspen tree has attracted her attention. With some difficulty, she climbs to the nest to investigate. In spite of a common misperception, grizzlies actually can climb trees. She has more important things on her mind, as this is the time of year females without cubs come into estrus. She and her mate continue their courting, in spite of the near blizzard conditions. Their courting will continue for hours. Actually, they may spend a few days together in the mating process. At the end of the day, most of the snow has melted, and the courting pair display a tender closeness. Mount Washburn is all that is left of a mountain chain that was blown up by the supervolcano of 600,000 years ago. In these high alpine slopes, the pika harvests and stores hay, the plants that will sustain him through the winter. He hides his stash in little caves because he'll be buried under feet of snow for 6 months. This high elevation harbors the white bark pine. These cones contain seeds that are high in fat. Ideal food for grizzly bears and a host of other high alpine residents, too. For some, the cones are there for the picking. But the grizzly sow depends on others to first gather the seeds, especially the red squirrel, which harvests the cones, then hides their seeds in underground caches. The cones mature in the autumn, and she will continue to dig out caches until she goes into hibernation. This is an incredibly important food source. During good cone years, 90% of a bear's caloric intake will come from these seeds. Even black bear cubs will take advantage of the grizzly's excavating talents to find any remaining seeds that she's overlooked. The female black bear is drawn to investigate too. The trees are being killed by 2 decades of global warming. This threatens their high elevation position, as they cannot compete with other species of trees that are moving up the slopes. In good years, she will concentrate on the white bark pine seeds until they are buried too deep under the snow. Then, in late October or early November, the pregnant female will select a den. Most likely on the north side of the mountain. In the den, the eggs that were fertilized in June will begin the process of growing into cubs. In May, the Washburn sow emerges from her den with 2 small cubs. At this elevation, May can seem more like March, but to the cubs that know nothing but the confines of a den, this is playtime. At birth, the cubs are tiny, about 1 pound. In the den, they lived entirely on their mother's milk, but now they will begin to sample the plant foods their mother eats. She will move across the mountain face in search of roots and other vegetation. Their energy seemed boundless. The grizzly's intelligence level makes them creatures of curiosity. A telegraph line from 100 years ago will capture their interest. Even as they're learning to eat new foods, the mother will continue nursing them for a time. Her milk is 30% butterfat. The cubs will depend on her milk for 5 months. And after that, they may still nurse occasionally until they separate from her. This Washburn mother continues with her 2 cubs in early summer. But then she disappears for a month into the backcountry. When she reappears, there are 4 cubs with her. DNA tests have identified the mother of these 2 new cubs, a sow who was attacked by wolves. In the encounter, 2 of her 3 cubs became separated from their mother. Adopting cubs is unusual in the grizzly world. In this case, not only were the 2 females related, but the father of all the cubs was Scarface. The Washburn female now has 4 cubs to nurse and to dig out squirrel caches for. The next spring finds her digging out a squirrel cache, but only 1 cub watches her. Somehow, 3 cubs have vanished. Even in the best of circumstances, only about half of all cubs survive to maturity. In Yellowstone, geology rules the ecosystem. The geothermal activity deep underground affects the food sources of all its creatures. Near Roaring Mountain, on the west side of the park, spring comes much earlier due to the warming of the ground, and bison may linger there. But winter still persists outside these areas. Bear cubs usually leave their mother in their 3rd summer. For the next several years, these bears are known as subadults, the teenagers of the bear world. Then, just as in our own teenagers, some activities seem to defy explanation. A porcupine is something to be investigated by the young bear. They have to learn about porcupines the hard way. The porcupine quills are barbed, so will not come out on their own. They may continue to work their way through the bear's paw, eventually allowing him to recover. It may take a few months. He endures the pain stoically. Small rodents can be found in unexpected places. The bear's sense of smell guides him to these locations. Although he depends mostly on plant food, he relishes meat. These little voles may be caught surprisingly often. But his diet includes earthworms, ants, moths, grasshoppers in season, as well as seeds, roots, mushrooms, and berries. He sometimes grazes grass like a cow. He's the ultimate omnivore. But he constantly searches for more opportunity. His mother was a killer of young elk calves, an important food source in early summer. Now the subadult is on his own and has a few things to learn about when to chase elk. The calves are too old and thus too fast for the bear to capture. Failure comes often in these pursuits. He pursues any opportunity he encounters, exploring any situation for the possibility of food. The duck stays close enough to tempt him. In reality, she is leading him away from her nest and clutch of eggs. This pursuit is futile as well. The subadult tears apart a beaver lodge made of small willow sticks. The beavers have no choice in building materials. Willow is their primary diet, but usually the branches are thick enough to build bear-proof lodges. Here, he has success, capturing several young beaver this day. A nutritional bonus for him. Equally unusual to adopting another female's cubs is the arrival of a sow at Swan Lake Flats with 4 cubs of her own. This has been recorded only once in Yellowstone. Most commonly, a female will have 2 cubs. 3 cubs are not unusual. Her sense of smell is better than a bloodhound. While a litter of 4 cubs is unusual, it does happen sometimes. In this litter, there is 1 cub about half the size of the other 3. He does not play as much, probably because of his size, and he often lags behind. Come on! The following spring, she appeared near Swan Lake with just 2 cubs, now yearlings. The 3rd spring, her 2 surviving cubs are almost the size of their mother, about 300 pounds. At this stage in their lives, the cubs would leave and/or be chased away by a boar interested in their mother. She would then mate, and the cycle would begin again. Incredibly, the cubs stayed with her into the 4th spring. Something about 4 in the life of this female, who will always be known as Quad Mom. The park's management of grizzlies has changed over the past century. Once, bears were fed garbage, and dumps were a location to watch bears. In the 1970s, dumps were closed, and many bears were not able to adapt to this policy and were shot. After the 1980s, bears increased in number until there are about 600 in the ecosystem now. As the numbers increased, some grizzlies, especially sows with cubs and subadults, moved into unused habitat near the park roads for a few weeks. For a few weeks, this grizzly family delighted park visitors with their antics, showing their delight for bison pies and slamming each other to the ground. Then, one day, they left for higher elevations. A grizzly's world is driven by ever-changing food sources. The area surrounding Yellowstone Lake offers a different habitat for grizzlies. Once, it had one of the highest densities of grizzlies in the southern 48 states. Today, bears still wander these shores, which are home for a variety of other animals. A single cub with no siblings to play with must turn to its mother for his entertainment. Like virtually all grizzly mothers, she is an attentive and accommodating mom. In May, along the lakeshore, the meadows have begun to shed their snow. The melting snow softens the ground, and gophers and voles can be easily dug out. The coyote adds a new twist for the young cub to investigate. This cub is not intimidated by the coyote. He has backup. The coyote decides to sneak away. Tangling with a mother grizzly is bad for your health. She chooses to move on. The lake's northeast shore is a very warm thermal area. There is another greenhouse effect here. A grizzly has taken over an elk carcass killed by wolves. The bison are aware of the grizzly, but not intimidated by him. Grass begins to grow long before the surrounding area is free of ice. The gray alpha female returns to the pack's kill, now surrounded by bison. The young bulls practice for more serious fights, which will come later in August. The three characters go round and round. The grizzly chases the wolf. But must retreat from the larger bison. The wolf, agile enough to avoid the bison, waits for the bison to leave. Studies have shown that over half of the grizzly's food intake comes from meat in these locations. Outside Yellowstone National Park, a grizzly's diet may be only 5% meat. Their food is primarily vegetation. Eventually, the bear will take over the carcass again. The wolf is playing with fire here. In this domain, the bison rule, completely disinterested in the contest between wolf and bear. As with any large body of water, Yellowstone Lake produces a great number of non-biting flies. These flies drop their eggs in the water and then die. Their bodies are washed ashore and pile up along the margins of the lake. Bears are drawn to the source of food. Insects are a most important food item in several locations. Far to the south and east, there are mountain meadows that are carpeted with cutworm moths late in summer, where bears have learned to feed on multitudes of them. Those moths are an extremely important food item, ranking with pine seeds for caloric value. Often in the afternoon, summer winds bring high waves, just the sort for a family of river otters to frolic in. All bears seem to have personalities, and the one known as Swimmer is no exception. Swimmer is a medium-sized male, about 10 years old. He has found a deer carcass, which the waves have brought in. A small subadult investigates the situation. But in the bear world, there is little sharing of carcasses. Swimmer makes sure that this characteristic is maintained and understood. In the afternoon heat, Swimmer takes a dip to cool off in the 50-degree lake water. He can endure extremely cold temperatures, but he has a low tolerance for heat. grizzlies are generally solitary animals, and he takes his pleasure alone. And after a good swim, it's time for a nap. Nearly every summer, there are wildfires in the park, usually caused by lightning. Fires and drought have affected the creeks and streams that feed into Yellowstone Lake. Otters thrive on fish they find there. Cutthroat trout were once the primary item in their diet, but the native cutthroat trout numbers have declined. Lake trout, introduced into Yellowstone illegally, eat the native cutthroat trout. But efforts to curtail the illegal lake trout are beginning to pay off. Cutthroat are becoming more numerous, and the grizzly has been seen foraging for them in small streams feeding into the lake. A bald eagle can take a trout because they are near the surface where he can reach them. Cutthroat trout were once an important food for grizzlies along the streams feeding into Yellowstone Lake, and so he is foraging for them. The fires that periodically burn the forests around the lake also release nutrients into the soil and opens up the tree canopy so that more plants are available to the grizzly bear. Grizzly bears eat 162 different plant species here in Yellowstone. His diet includes earthworms, ants, and berries. These salad diets are lower in caloric value, but are so abundant they comprise a large portion of the grizzly's food intake. The seasons refuse to fall into a normal pattern in these high mountains. Spring may seem like winter. The playfulness of the cub will persist into adulthood. He's adept at entertaining himself. A free ride is always fun, too. The valley is also home to several coyote packs. At this den, there is a litter of pups, with 3 adults to care for them. And the adults are constantly alert to any grizzly that may wander nearby. The mother coyote tries to distract the young grizzly away from her den. And she succeeds. When spring finally arrives in full bloom, grizzlies are often seen in Hayden Valley, digging out gopher burrows, and occasionally a gopher. The sedge meadows along the Yellowstone River are especially used for this activity. Grizzly cubs seem to have an eternal fascination for bison pies. This cub is no exception. This dried object is the single most popular toy for young bear cubs. On a spring morning, sandhill cranes have new chicks in the nest. Their unique calls now are a response to a family of approaching bears, an alarm cry. The male goes to meet the grizzly family, attempting to distract them from the nest. In an astonishing, almost unbelievable display, the grizzly mother turns away. Drama that may occur every day in Yellowstone. It must be a rare win for the sandhill crane. The snow in Hayden Valley is much too deep for elk to remain here during the winter. But by spring, they have moved into the valley just in time to have their calves. For 3 weeks in early June, grizzlies search for hidden calves, or chase after the herds in hopes that a calf will drop behind. By late June, the calves are fast enough to keep out of harm's way. But the grizzly keeps trying, compelled by her desire for flesh. Hayden Valley is perhaps best known for its large bison herd. In August, the bulls fight over the right to mate. Some of these fights are deadly, so grizzlies will cruise the valley searching for a dead bison. In these high country mountain retreats, the grizzly bear has no natural enemies, except for another grizzly. This male protects a carcass that a female with cubs also has detected. Wolves have been waiting out the bear, but the grizzly has taken over. The larger male will not be easily dislodged. The wolves take advantage of the confrontation to attack the cubs. The female rushes to their defense. They're beginning to show that grizzly grit on their own, but with mom to back them up again. The female hesitates. But then, astonishingly, the male gives way to her. The wolves attack the cubs again. Ironically, wolves may be contributing to the increase of the grizzly population because of the game they are able to kill. The male returns, and there is one more tense confrontation. This time she gives way to the old male, leaving the kill to him. Maybe the better part of wisdom. It's March, and bison have begun their migration to higher elevations, following new growth. Their route passes blacktail ponds, where warm springs create weakness in the ice. The cow is doomed. There is no escape from the frigid water. Soon, her body will be frozen into the ice. As many as 6 bison have met this fate in a single winter. The rest of the herd shows concern, but they have no way to help. Her carcass will remain under the ice, frozen until warmer weather. The grizzly also breaks through the thinning ice, but he is better equipped to cope with it. Large bears, just out of hibernation, know that this is the place to go for a meal. Like any other scavenger, the bear will be quick to investigate. The rotting ice is not a detriment to him. He's almost impervious to the cold. Bison are on the move again. Bluebirds have returned in the northern part of Yellowstone Park. The bison may have wintered in the northern area around blacktail ponds. The herd hesitates briefly, but one yearling attempts to jump an open arm of water. She makes it across. A second young cow decides to cross in like manner. She can't get a grip on the icy bank. Her desperate struggles are to no avail. The banks are too steep to allow her to get a foothold. If she will only turn back the direction she came from, she could escape. The herd has continued on, and the yearling is anxious to catch up with them. Cautiously, she tests the decaying ice and edges forward. When it holds, she gains confidence. It seems to support her weight. Once again, she's unable to climb the steep bank. The cow is unable to help. Her struggles continue for several hours. By sunset, the cold water has sapped her energies away. As the rolling seasons evolve, the temperatures rise. A week later, the pond has started to thaw around the edges. In the warming days, a large boar soon discovers the newest victim. A splash sends a raven on his way. He will have to wait. With a full stomach, the bear retreats to sleep, but not before facing off with a wolf. A sense of respect and curiosity may sometimes engage them both. Briefly. the temperatures rise. In the warming days, the ice disappears, but the bison carcass does not. In the life of Yellowstone, many creatures can feed on the bison. In these remote pockets of the hidden world, life plays out, a predestined role, constantly changing, yet forever constant. Nothing is wasted. Perhaps signaled by the ravens, the coyote is also drawn to investigate. He can see the meal, but there's no place for him to stand. He can't feed on it. A grizzly sow and her cub find the carcass. The cub is in his third season, and the sow is trying to wean him. Her motherly instincts are now dissipated, although she will tolerate him enough to allow him to share this find. A hunting boar, though, makes it his business to check this out. The cub sees the boar as a dangerous threat. The boar is interested in the female as well as the food, because she is about ready for mating. The cub has left. He has now been weaned. He's on his own. After leaving their mother, the subadults often stay together and continue their playful ways. These are actually preparations for more serious conflict later on. These young bears skirmish in a half-hearted way. Next year, the urge will deepen and develop into genuine rage. Even as sibling adults, though, they could eventually face each other in a vicious duel for dominance. These hostilities almost always occur over food or mating. A carcass is always a prize to protect and possess. The competition can be fierce. Like sumo wrestlers, these heavyweights of the bear world push, shove, and bite until one gives up. A coyote waits his turn. But he is far down the pecking order at a kill. Unexpectedly, it is the loser of the fight that follows the coyote in a game of hide and seek. Grizzly bears have distinct personalities. One, called Thumper, seemed to delight in toying with ravens. He would bait them to the carcass, then charge. If he left the carcass for any reason, he would continue his jealous watch. His sense of possessiveness is a powerful characteristic within the grizzly bear family. In Yellowstone, the grizzly bear's habitat is both large and varied. The bear can be found on the highest mountains, at other times in the deep valleys, his stomach dictating where he will be found. Along the way, the grizzly interacts with wolves, coyotes, and all the other species that make up this unique wild sanctuary.